Dan Illman and Mike Beer. Welcome to the DRF Race of the Day presented by DRF Bets. Our race of the day for Wednesday, October the 19th, race number 8 at Keeneland. We close out the card going 5.5 furlongs on the turf. First level allowance race for fillies and mares. It's a big field. It's a competitive field. Let's take a look at the field. And please scan the QR code for Race of the Day access on your mobile devices. They're coming from everywhere, Mike. You've got horses shipping in from Belterra, Pimlico, Woodbine, Del Mar, and they all have some speed.
Yeah, that's what I thought, first and foremost. I mean, there are several, I think, fillies in here coming off of pretty solid performances, but there's also, it feels like there's a ton of pace in this race.
The speed of the speed could be Southern California speed, and that would be the 9 Opening Buzz, as we see from our Timeform US pace projector. Opening Buzz is very lightly raced. She's only run 3 times in her career, but the Calbred has shown high speed going 5/8 of a mile. She's won at 5.5, albeit over synthetic, and I would think they're here to go.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to ship all the way over here and then rate her, I don't think, Dan. It's just it's an interesting spot to run her in. It's not like they shipped her over, to run in some kind of stakes race, an entry-level allowance race. She's run 3 times so far. They're all on different surfaces. She's run pretty well in 2 of the 3.
A horse that's done nothing wrong on the turf is the number 1 Shannon for Brad Cox. She's run 3 times on the surface with a win and 2 runner-up efforts. And I personally think if the pace is fair, not extremely fast, she can be a little bit closer than where her number 1 Chiclet is on the Timeform US pace projector. And let's take a look at Shannon's most recent performance at Kentucky Downs. Keep in mind this is at 6.5 furlongs. She was in between horses early. Florent Giroux just took her back on the turn to get her to the outside. She has dead aim on this horse on the lead all the way down to the stretch. She just can't forge by, but a good solid effort with an 87 buyer.
Yeah, she ran fine in here. This is a Wesley Ward horse that she's up there with no real excuse not to get the job done here, Dan. She's just going to be denied at the end of this race by a very lightly raced filly. So I guess, there has to be some kind of chance that you feel like Storm Kiss could turn out to be pretty good. I don't know. This filly's run well in all 3 of her starts so far. And while she has speed, she looks like the kind of horse who doesn't need the lead to be effective. Those are all positives.
Agreed. And I also like her cutting back a furlong here. I think that's going to help her out. I think she'll sit in mid-pack while saving valuable ground. It's all about the trip in these turf sprints. Maybe she'll get one under Giroux. The 2 is Kiting, 2 for 2 lifetime on the turf. Deserves an opportunity against this tougher competition, but both wins came against weaker at Belterra, including this performance last time out. Gate to wire and a 12,500 now winners of 2 life claimer. She was too good for this field first time blinkers. She's going to face a world's different level of competition from a pace and class standpoint on Wednesday.
Yeah, that stuff's all pretty obvious on paper. She'll be a big price, a filly who is undefeated on the grass. So I guess you could, hold out some kind of hope that this is just her surface and she'll take a big step forward here. But man, there's a ton working against her, not only the rise in class there, but there's just a ton of speed to her outside.
Another horse that might appreciate a little bit of a cutback in distance is the 3 Boxing Day. They tried to run her 7/8 of a mile at Kentucky Downs, and that might even play a little bit longer over that undulating surface. She ran 3rd that day. The runner-up came back to run 2nd with an 81 buyer in a first-level allowance. She did some good work earlier this year at the Fairgrounds going 5.5, so maybe cutting her back and giving her some pace to run at, she can surprise at a price.
Yeah, I'm okay with looking at her that way, Dan. I guess the only real problem that I had with her is I thought her debut when she won last September at Kentucky Downs, I thought she ran well in that race. And I know she improved after that. You're talking about races in, March and May as a very young 3-year-old. The figures are good. She was competitive. I just didn't really like any of those races. I mean, I know that she's probably better than I'm giving her credit for. If she's some kind of price, you could probably take a shot with her. I just don't like her that much.
The number 4, Abukir Bay. Throw out the race going a mile, throw out the race going on dirt, and throw out the career debut, and she's there or thereabouts in every one of her starts, and she ran very well last time right off a layoff at Kentucky Downs. Now, let's watch this performance going 6.5 furlongs, Mike. She's well out of it. She's got a lot of horses in front of her. She does a lot.
Yeah, she kicks really hard in here. The short comment says checked at the 8th pole. I didn't see that, but she did have to alter course there a little bit. And then once she gets into the clear, this is a really strong finish. You'll notice that nobody else is making up ground on this horse on the lead. But this horse comes flying late and runs this horse right over on the lead. what I liked about this performance, Dan, is the 3 prior turf sprints over the winter at Fairgrounds. She was close and didn't get the job done in any of those races. And I didn't think she had any excuses along the way there. But going all the way back to that the second career start at Ellis, that's the only other time they took her back and they let her make one run, and she ran really well there. And they went back to those tactics last time, and I think it really worked for them.
She's a 3-year-old, lightly raced with a lot of upside. It's all about, with this running style, will she get enough pace? Will she get a trip? Because she was flying home in that last race we just saw. Chrome Plated Heart is down from Maryland for a very underrated trainer in Justin Nixon, but this filly's going to have to find a little bit more off of this performance, where she was the beaten favorite at Pimlico, going 5/8 in a $40,000 non-winners of 2 life. She was outside on the turn, Mike, but she has a look at this in the stretch, and she just can't seal the deal and will end up finishing 3rd.
Yeah, don't like this performance from this filly who just, it kind of feels like, Dan, she's come back with 3 starts this year and she just hasn't taken a step forward because, you know, even though she got off to a little bit of a late start, it felt like she was pretty progressive towards the end of last year as a 3-year-old, and she just hasn't gotten any better.
I thought her seasonal debut was good. I agree with you. Her last 2 starts just haven't done it for me. She is 20-1 on the morning line and should be somewhat forwardly placed. She has some speed, and she gets an aggressive rider in Luis Saez. The 6s can't believe it, and this filly is going to be trying turf for the first time. She is stakes placed on dirt, and she's only had 1 start this year off a long layoff, a race which she didn't do anything at all as the favorite. Contharos is a very good turf sprint sire. The dam was Group 3 place sprinting on turf in New Zealand, but for me, it's wait and see.
That's what it is for me too. Although she really does have the pedigree to be effective on this surface, and she did run pretty well in her 2 starts as a 2-year-old. The bigger the price, the more interested I'll be.
She does have some speed from her 2-year-old races. It'll be interesting to see if she can show that here, because if she does have some upside again. And as Mike mentioned, a very strong turf sprint pedigree. The 7 is Gambling Cat, who's coming down from Woodbine for trainer Mark Cassie. Let's watch her most recent start. Now, she's been stuck at this first level allowance condition for a while. And in the 7/8 of a mile race over the E.P. Taylor turf course, I thought for the most part she tripped out. She sat the pocket in behind the leader. She eases out. She has a look, and for it seems yet again, she picks up a minor award.
Yeah, I mean, no real excuse here. Runs the typical sort of a typical race for her, and just really doesn't even really threaten too hard late in this race. Then she's just not good enough. I don't know. This really spent some time in New York. I wasn't really a fan of her then. They were running her in some claiming races. I don't necessarily look at her and feel like cutting her back to sprint has done her any favor. She hasn't improved at all, in my opinion, and now she's got to go even shorter.
The number 8, Arlene's Crown, has never been off the board from 5 lifetime starts, including this most recent race at Kentucky Downs. Now, both of her turf races, they've been good. They've also been at longer distances, at a mile. You see Arlene's Crown, she has shown that middle distance speed. She was on the lead here. She's going to run a good second. Maybe cutting back in distance is what she wants. She's been on the lead at the pace call in all 5 of her starts, however, and it'll be interesting to see if she's quick enough to make the front in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other speed in the race, which works against her. I have no problem with them wanting to cut her back, though. I do feel like there's a chance that you could just, sort of take a look at her and say she's better sprinting. She's never sprinted on turf, and maybe that will sort of get her over the top. But she's also been racing pretty cheaply, Dan, and now she's in against a pretty good field.
3 starts, 3 different surfaces for Opening Buzz, who was a dominant debut winner in Northern California over the Topeta, then didn't run very well, showing big speed on dirt. And then last time out at Del Mar, they dropped her into a fine first-level Calbred allowance. She showed speed from the start. She gets away from this field in the stretch. The Buyer's speed figure, perhaps the most impressive thing from this race, a 94. If she runs back to that race, obviously she's a major contender.
Yeah, she runs back to a 94. She'll probably win. This is a good performance. She was right up with the pace the entire way. She wins very easily at the end. The horse that you saw finishing a clear second there came back, and I guess she kind of confirmed that figure, Dan. She won her next start with an 83 Buyer. I don't know. I thought this filly was super impressive in her debut. She was really good last time, first time on turf. I guess the only question is they've tested her once, and in that stakes race, she was not very good. So I wonder if she classes up a little bit here, but maybe dirt's just not her surface.
And she may not be the quickest from the gate. She does have good speed once she gets rolling, but even in her debut, she kind of broke inward a little bit, and then in her second start, she stumbled. So that could be key for Tyler, getting Opening Buzz out of the gate cleanly and into a comfortable rhythm before rolling up to take command. Ball Gown is the 10 coming off of a maiden win at Ellis Park for trainer Victoria Oliver. We're going to watch Ball Gown's performance in that race, and I just thought she got a great trip as the favorite. She sat just off a very moderate pace. They went 46-2 in this turf sprint, and Ball Gown is just better than these horses. Buyer speed figure is light. She can improve, but she'll have to improve by leaps and bounds, I think.
I thought the same thing. And obviously she's very lightly raced. And she does finish this race off pretty well, Dan, but you're right. Everything about her trip in there suggested she was supposed to run pretty well, and she did.
Top Gun Girl, maybe just this 5.5 furlong distance is what she wants. She ran very well in both turf sprint starts last year, including a win against males over this course. Now, she's only raced twice this year, once over a synthetic surface, which you could forgive, especially off the layoff, and then last time out in a first level allowance going 6.5, where I think the distance saw her out at the end.
Yeah, me too. I like this horse going a little bit shorter, and I did like each of her first two starts, even the debut at Saratoga last summer, Dan. The horse that won the race was the horse that had experience. She already had a race. Everybody behind her, they were all making their debuts in there. This filly ran fine to just miss, and she's gotten better since then.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRF video opportunities. Top pick time for our Wednesday race of the day. Race of the day, of course, presented by DRF Bets. Abukir Bay, what a close last time out. Now she's going to have to do it in this big field, so she'll have to work out a trip.
Yeah, those things are obviously question marks and things you have to worry yourself with in a race like this. But I felt like she was going to be a fair price, Dan. And I think maybe they found the key to her is that you can't try to keep her close. You got to let her settle back and make one run. There's pace in here. I wasn't, quite sold on the 1, the 9, or the 11, although I think they're the 3 horses to beat.
I'm kind of with you with the 1 and the 11. I'd have to use those horses, but maybe I prefer to use them underneath, especially a horse like Shannon, the 1, a horse that figures to take money. And Top Gun Girl's also 4-1 on the morning line. Opening Gut Buzz is going to be the favorite, but she deserves to be, based on her 2 numbers on non-dirt, 94 and 92. If she breaks clean, she should be in the thick of things turning into the stretch. 4-1, 11, 9 for Mike, 9-1, 11, 7 for me. It's our Wednesday race of the day, the 8th at Keeneland. Best of luck.